Welcome to the Adoption Journey podcast. I am your host, Tarsha Smith, and I am super excited to have a fellow adoptee in the building today. Hey, Sara.
Hey.
So she is going to share with us her adoption story.
Yeah.
And one of the first questions I love to ask is, how old were you when you found out that you were adopted?
So, good question. There was never a time that I didn't know. I always just knew. My parents, they gave me a book when I was really young, and it was called Why Was I Adopted? And it had little pictures, drawn out pictures of children and that came from different families and how they got there and how families were different. So some had moms and dads, some had uncles, and some had grandparents, and some people were adopted, and I was one of those adopted people.
And how did you feel about that as a child?
At an early age, I was like that chosen kid. I was different because I was chosen. Like your parents
Absolutely.
had to have you, but I was that was a choice. And
Yeah.
they picked me. Like there was other children they could have picked, but they picked me. So I was I felt privileged at the time. As a young child. As I got older, I think there was some resentment about it that started for me.
Why? Where'd that come from?
So I think, also being a girl, being a teenager and growing a little bit, and I won't even say teenager, I was like preteen. I started
age where we start cutting up.
Yes. You start feeling yourself a little too
little
much.
bit. Yeah.
And I would say things to my adopted mom that were just like, "You're not my mom. I wish you could have, I wish you wouldn't have taken me from my mom." And it started to become a resentment. And at that age, of course, I don't know that's a resentment. Now that I'm older, I don't know where the exact moment was where I started building that resentment, but I know it started early.
Oh, okay. So now we are in that middle school years. You're starting to feel resentment. Overall, though, you would say you had a good childhood, right?
You know what? I was an only child.
Spoiled rotten.
Completely. And it could have just been that, that started the resentment. But I was raised, I had a, good middle-class upbringing, great parents. Both of my parents were there my whole life. They're still together to this day. And they were good people. They're good people, and they just wanted a child. And I was that child.
You're that child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So at what point have you always wondered about your birth family? Did you fantasize about that, or birth mother in particular?
Absolutely. So there's that feeling of, and I was listening to your podcast or to your episodes previously, and I heard where you said, I just want to know who I looked like. And, living in Atlanta, you're walking around and do I look like you or do I look like you? You could be my family.
Done that.
Yes.
I've done that.
So there was a constant, who do I look like? And I didn't have a feeling of belonging, although my family didn't make me feel like I didn't belong. I just didn't feel like I fit
in.
Yeah.
And so what prompted you, because I don't know if you did or not, did you begin to reunite with your birth family?
I did and have.
Okay, so hold on. We got to walk through that. Walk through that.
It's a step by step.
So yes, step by step. So how did you even get started with that?
So I was 18 when I first started starting the process. And
hold on. You know what? I have a question. I'm sorry. Did your adoptive parents give you the information from when you got older? Did they say okay, here's your paperwork? Was it a closed adoption?
Right. Okay. So it was a very closed adoption. Okay. And there's closed adoptions and there's closed adoptions. And this was a closed adoption. So I got the non-identifying information. Okay. I didn't even have the correct hospital. And I was probably about mid-20s when I got that. but I started really
Mm.
searching and trying to figure out information and putting things together when I was about 18. Like I got the adoption agency's name and I tried to look for the my foster parents who I was only in foster care for, a few months up until I was adopted at 5 months. So I was an infant. But I tried to connect dots and there I would pick it up and I would put it down. I'd pick it up and I'd put it down. It wasn't a continuous search. So I was probably about 25, maybe 24. And my mom gave me my non-identifying information, and I tried to search that way. Well, at this point, this is right before the DNA thing came out.
Okay.
And so I kept hitting dead ends and I didn't even know where to really look. I got on one of those registries that, you can, if the other person's looking for you, it'll let you know. I did that a couple of times and still nothing.
Now, were you adopted in the state of Georgia?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are they a state where you're able to get your original birth certificate?
No. I don't
Okay.
think I don't think so. And I at the time I didn't know where to even begin with that.
Okay.
I didn't it was like a pick up put down type of thing and I didn't know what I was innately waiting on, but
I
there was
understand.
something that was holding me back.
I
So
understand that.
I turned close to 30 and the Ancestry and 23andMe kits came out. And I
Okay.
kind of waited on that a little bit too and then I finally did the 23andMe kit. And with 23andMe, like it'll tell you have, first cousins, second cousins, third cousins. I kept finding fourth cousins, fifth cousins, way down the line. And I
Way
would,
down the line.
right. And so I did the ancestry kit behind that one. And there were two or three people that were like the same on both Ancestry and 23andMe. And this one lady was like, she was on both of them. And I started reaching out to her and she saw me too. And so we had a conversation and she said she was looking for her family as well, but she was looking for her father's side and couldn't
Okay.
find them. And so she said she was using a organization called Search Angels.
Yes.
And so she set me up with Search Angels. And
Okay.
this is 3 years ago. And I had a search angel named Rose who started doing my genealogy. I don't know how they do this. They can figure out whose side is on, who comes from what side and who comes from where. It's amazing to me. And so Rose started working on my genealogy and working on my family's tree. And when we would find something and it would be a dead end, or we would find something and we couldn't put it together. And so this year in May, I got an alert on, it was actually My Heritage, because you can move your DNA. You can move your DNA from website to website. Once you
Okay.
do one DNA kit, you've done them all. So
Gotcha.
I got an email from My Heritage saying that there was a match that was somebody, the DNA was very, very similar. And it was probably my aunt. And Rose said, "Did you see that?" Because she's monitoring mine too. So she's like, "Did you see that?" I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah." She's like, "Let me do some digging." I said, "Okay." So that same night, she calls me on Facebook where we communicate, and she's like, "Hey, I think we found something. I'm going to connect you with this cousin." So she connects me with this cousin, and she's like, "Well, let me talk." The cousin was like, "Let me talk to my aunt, and I'll let you know tomorrow." So the next
Okay.
day, I'm like, pins and needles and kind of my stomach's in knots. And I finally called the cousin
Yeah.
and I was like, she's like, "Well, I talked to my aunt." I said, "Well, what'd she say?" She's like, "You can call her." And I said, "What is it? Is she my mom?" And she goes, "Yeah, she's your mom." So right then and there, the woman texted me right after I got off the phone with my cousin.
Okay. Pause. 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 We're not gonna fly by that. Hold on. I need to know how you felt.
Meanwhile,
Yeah, rewind. I need to know. Actually, I have two questions, but my first question is when she said that's your mom, like tell me in the moment, butterflies, knots, I'm about
relief.
to throw up. Which one?
My way to work, and it was just like I had to pull over,
Yeah,
and it was instant relief. Instantly, I
mhm.
felt there's something here.
I know that
And
feeling.
yeah, and it was just like, and in the conversation, she's telling me about my family and all I can hear about is my mom, my mom, my mom.
Hmm.
And she says in the conversation, "Oh, well, we know about you. We've been looking for you too, but they didn't know where to start either."
So
So
so you weren't the family secret. They knew?
not really.
Yes, no, maybe you
Okay,
okay.
like my mother knew, of course, my mother, my grandmother, my cousin knew about, my older cousin knew about me. Well, then I have a little sister who is much younger than me. She's 22. I'm 37.
Okay.
Um, and she had no idea. So I was a secret to her.
Now, okay.
Yeah.
And were you in the same area?
So I grew up north of Atlanta. They grew up
Okay.
in Atlanta. So we were like 30 minutes from each other. I was
That's
never more than 30 minutes away.
that is amazing when I
Yeah.
hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to just backtrack just a little bit because I know you said you started feeling resentment like, middle school years. Did that grow, or as you grew up, did that kind of what happened with that resentment?
It built and built and it changed, and then it would change to something else. Um, and just to be transparent, like I've struggled with addiction,
Okay.
and I think that resentment led to the addiction, which led to some trauma. It just changed. It morphed into something worse.
Okay.
And now that I know about resentment and I understand what that was, and I don't know where it started, I couldn't tell you. I wish I
Yeah.
could, but it just started building and then changing into something else.
So, were your adoptive parents supportive of you doing this search?
So they were as supportive as they could be, and I know and deep inside, and my adopted mom probably will not just admit that, yeah, it hurt, but yeah, it probably hurt a little bit. Because it's like, well, we did this and we did this, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't that it wasn't enough. It's just that there was something missing. Like from
And as blunt as this sounds, and I say it often, it has absolutely nothing to do with you, adoptive parents.
right.
Nothing.
It's not you.
This
It's
has
not you.
nothing to do with you
Y'all are
because
amazing people.
amazing. But I think especially when you go back to those closed adoption era,
Mhm.
one thing that they did not do well, and the adoption agencies, the social workers, everyone in that community, they did not prepare these adoptive parents
No. And there was no
well at
aftercare.
all. There was no aftercare,
Mm.
and there was no aftercare for the birth parents
Mm-mm.
because none of them ever could have known that 20, 30, 40 years later, all these kids was going to come back
They're here.
and find these people. I mean,
Right.
it happens more than the general public knows. It's
Right.
happening a lot.
Right.
Okay, so we find mom. Okay,
Yeah.
so tell me what the meeting is like.
So it was that same day. Um,
Oh,
yeah, no waits. No waits. I went to work. Like I said, I was
and
on
that's what I was gonna say. Did you call off?
I went to work, and it turns out my boss was adopted. So I went and took him in the office. I said, I have to talk to you right now. And I took him in the office, and I said, I have to tell you what I just found out. And I told him, and I'm going throughout the rest of my day. He was like, oh goodness, and I'm going throughout the rest of my day.
Yeah,
And she's texting me. And the first thing she said was she was sorry. And I was like, no apologies needed. Nothing. We don't need to apologize. I had a good life. I'm okay. I just want to know you. And she's like,
yeah.
I want to be a part of your life too. And I said, okay, cool. So as I'm going throughout my day, I can't concentrate at all.
Of course not. That's why you should have just called in.
Right. And so she said she's getting off of work at 3. I was like, okay, I'll be on my way at 3. So I left after that, and I drove down to see her, and opening the door,
Mm.
I was home in a strange sense. Like that
Yeah.
feeling just was, okay, I belong here. I'm okay here. I'm
Now,
safe.
was it just you and her, or did the
No,
rest of the family start trickling in?
no. So my mom takes care of my grandmother, who is also named Sara, and it's also spelled the same way. That was the aunt. That was the connection on my heritage.
Ah,
So when I saw
okay.
Sara, it all looked weird. And my sister even said that when she saw that I was connected to them, she said, that's a scam. That's a scam. No. So she didn't even bother with it. But so my mom takes care of my grandmother, and my sister is 22. She lives with my mom as well. So they all
Okay.
live together. And then I have a cousin who grew up in that house that just recently moved away. But then the rest of my family is all right in the same general vicinity.
That's crazy. You probably was crossing paths with people
Right, right.
at
And
some
never
point
even knew it.
and never even knew.
Yeah.
And what is the relationship with your mom like?
So my mom and I speak every day. Yeah, every day.
Oh,
Good morning. I love you more. Good night. I love you more.
has
Um,
it been like it's how do I want to ask? Like really good in the beginning and then has it been a little weird or a little trying or a little
it's never been weird. It's
not
never been
not
weird. That's my mom. You know what I mean? And she's not my the one who raised me, of course, but
right.
she's still we both, we just
I
connect.
understand. I
And
understand.
we have the same mannerisms. We look alike. Me and my sister look a lot alike.
Mm,
And so we we do speak every day. I go over there, like, if I'm not with my adopted parents at their house or at with my mom, my adopted mom, I'm with my biological mom. They've met each
that
other. My moms have met each other. Um
okay.
so it's just like it's one big whole family. It's not there's nothing weird, it's not any awkwardness. It's just one whole family.
Because what I have experienced, because I have also found my birth mother, um, my brothers have met my mother and my
Mhm,
father.
mhm.
My adoptive mother and birth mother have not, but they also no they we don't live in the same state. Like none of us live in the same state. But I don't even think that my adoptive mom would want to. She
Right,
was cool with my brothers. She loves my brothers. I think that would be a little hard for her.
right.
So I don't
Well,
I don't
it
think
was
that she would do
it
that.
was that wasn't weird, but it was really it was part of the healing for us. Like, I guess in some ways. So my
Mhm.
son he just turned 18 this year, and he was like, "Mom, I want a tattoo." I said, "Okay, cool." So for his 18th birthday, we took him to get a tattoo. It was me and my daughter and my mom and my son.
Okay.
And my sister calls that day. She just happened to call, and she was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Getting ready to go get Jaden a tattoo." She was like, "Oh, okay. Can I meet you there?" I was like, "Okay." Well, I didn't realize she was going to bring my mother with her. And so they just happened to be in the same place and met, and we went out to dinner together. It was
I
really
love that.
it
I
was really
love that. And I think it also helps when the birth mother can be so accepting and open.
yes.
Because my next question for you is what about your birth father?
So my mother was a victim of rape, and that's how I came
Um,
about. So
okay.
once she let me know that, um, I was done looking for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
She knew him?
She didn't know
It,
him.
she
It was a
didn't know
date
him.
rape situation, and she wasn't,
Okay.
yeah, no. So, um, she said that if I want to find anything else out, she would help me because it's a small area they live in. Um, but I'm good. I'm good on that.
You're good. I understand. How
Yeah.
do you feel about that?
Um, for a long time, because so when I was probably about 26, I think that was one of the things that my adopted mother knew, and she had let
Ah.
me know that. I wasn't sure if it was true or not, though. I just that was part of that resentment building. And so when I found out that at that point, I felt like, oh well, I wasn't even conceived in love, so how can I be loved? And
Mm,
it became a thing. But as
okay.
I've grown older, I think I've outgrown that thought. Like, love is love, God is love,
Love- Absolutely.
period. So, um,
Period.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I think I'm healed from that. Like the recovery and everything has worked through that thought process.
So I love that your mom was able to be open with you about that because I know a lot of the adoptees, including myself,
Mm,
have heard from members of the family, why are you digging? Why are you looking? Be careful what um,
you may not
and
like what you
you may
find.
not like what you find. And what I have always said, I'm old enough at this point in the game. I understand all that.
Right.
I get it. You don't know what you're going to walk into when you decide to take this reunification journey. That's part of the journey.
Right.
So anybody that's walking through it with this false sense of, it's going to be open and they're going to love me, like what you experience and what I have
Right.
experienced on my maternal side, because
And
I'm
I've
doing it again on my paternal side. Who knows?
Right. And I've heard,
You
I've
know,
heard plenty of family members, and even like my former husband was like, "Are you sure you want to walk into this?" And it wasn't until we weren't together until I was able to walk into that. But, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure? And I always said, yeah. At this point, I'm ready. I'm prepared for whatever comes that way.
because what I've learned is non-adoptive people cannot understand what that feels like and why we so boldly walk into those spaces,
Right.
because they were raised with their biological
Right.
families.
They don't
So you don't
understand at all.
understand what it's like to be detached from that.
Right.
And now you're trying to put these pieces of this thread together, and where
Right.
do I fit? And because I've been over here and it's been cool over here,
Right.
but I got to figure out me. And it's part of learning who we are
There
and
was a lot of
discovering our
identity.
identity.
Yeah.
Yep. That identity. Yep. And people that are non-adoptive people, and especially something about that older generation,
Right.
because I know that's a generation of secrets,
Yes.
the generation of shame
Hmm.
and all of that. And they're
Right.
like, don't go digging. No, we digging.
We're digging. We're healing
We're
here.
digging. That's
We're
it.
healing here. We're fixing things. I'm
We're,
sorry.
we're healing.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We're
Yeah.
healing.
I'm
And
breaking
you
curses.
can't heal with secrets.
I'm breaking curses.
Right. You can't heal with secrets.
No.
You
Just
just
keep me
can't.
safe.
You can't, because it's not a thing. So you stop looking for him. You have this amazing relationship with and I want to say something to the birth parents that might be watching. And it's the same message that I give the adoptive parents. Be open.
Absolutely.
Stop the secrets. When we find you, or if you find us, be honest, be open. And, I know that's much easier said than done for a lot of people, but that will help the healing process for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And so now you have this great extended family. I want to touch on, if you don't mind,
Mhm.
you said you struggled with addiction.
Absolutely.
So we talk about that.
Okay. So I struggled with addiction for upwards of 10 years. And I would say probably roughly around 17, 18 years. And I just came from a place that was just the norm, kind of. I didn't have to do this. I didn't have to do that. It was a life I chose.
Okay.
And being out there, I have 4 children, and being out there caused me to have to give up my custody of my kids to family members. So not only am I an adoptee, I'm a birth mother as well. So I've got 4 children. 2 are with my adopted mom and dad, and the other 2 are with my ex-husband's family. And the 2 that are with my mom and dad have been adopted. My parents have adopted them. So I have
Okay. Pop up. No, we're not going to come back. Because you got both sides. Okay.
right,
So what was that like, having to give up your children, especially as an adoptee? What does that look
right.
like?
So it was temporary at first, and I was,
Okay.
I'm always going to come back. It was that thought process. I'm always going to come back. And then I got in too deep. And I got in so deep that my adopted parents were like, let's do the right thing for the kids, and let's just make it so that we can do what we need to do for them. And it worked out, honestly. Like, as I felt resentment about that later on, when it happened. But at this point, I've been clean for 19 months. I have a life
Congratulations.
again. I'm adulting. I have my own place. I
That's
have a dog. I have
amazing.
a wonderful boyfriend. I've got life is lifing. And I have the most
Yeah,
important thing. And the reason why I did this is I have a relationship with my kids. I know that I wouldn't be able to parent again. They're older. So I have an 18-year-old, two 17-year-olds. They're twins. And then a 12-year-old. And I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to parent again traditionally. But I knew I
okay.
wanted to be a mother to them in some sense. And I'm definitely a mother to them. I'm there when they need me.
Okay. So clearly an open adoption because
Absolutely.
they know
Super.
who you are, super open adoption.
Yeah.
What does that look like for some people that don't know when there's all different types of openness. So for your family, what does that look like?
For my family, I'm mommy, period. Like I am mommy. My
Okay.
mom is Mimi. She's always been
Okay.
Mimi. My son has always lived in my mom's house because I was 18 when I had him.
All
So
right.
um he's always had Mimi and Poppy there, helping him
That's so
going
cute.
through
Love that.
going through life and doing the things. And for my youngest daughter who also lives there, who's also been adopted, she also knows it's mommy and then Mimi. I can
Okay. So
call my mom.
kinship adoption.
Yes.
Okay.
I can call my mom and say, hey, I want to come and get Rini. I did actually last Friday. I was off work and I called my mom, hey, I'm going to come get Rini for dinner. And then went and picked up the other kids wherever I had to go and get them. And we all went to dinner,
Okay.
spent
Okay.
time
So
with
it
them.
sounds like it's worked. How do the kids feel about it? Do you all have that conversation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. At this point,
So what's it like for them?
so my son is probably the most impacted, my oldest, because he kind of
Okay.
saw the
He
different stages of,
saw
yeah,
the
the different stages
things.
of mommy. And him and I have never been closer, ever. He calls me at least 4 or 5 times a week. Not just
Okay.
for groceries because he's in college. Like he texted me on Tuesday because he hadn't heard from me on Monday, and he said, "Hey, just want to make sure you're good. Are you all right?"
I
um,
love that.
yeah. So for me, it's for him. He's the most impacted, and we've had conversations, and he's like, I'm just glad you're good, and you're able to be in my life. It doesn't
Mm,
matter what capacity, but at this point, this is the capacity I need you. You know what I mean? Like I'm able to go to his dorm and make sure he has groceries. I'm able to, go pick up the rest of the kids and take them over there to see him. They're happy that I'm here in any capacity that I can be an
that you
adult.
can be.
Yeah.
I love that. So it sounds like everyone is doing good,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and oh my God, I love that.
It's a whole
So
my family just got bigger. That's all that my family just
it
got.
yeah, it literally just expanded.
Mhm.
And do they have a relationship with your birth mom as well?
They do. So and especially with my sister. My sister is closer in age with my son than she is with me. So like when he turned 18, we went and took him out for, his 18th birthday and stuff. And they talk and she gives them the talks that I can't necessarily give them.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I love her for that. I love that. And I love the fact that they have a relationship. The other kids don't have as much of a relationship, but it's growing. You can see the growth coming.
Okay. Okay. Because between their own kinship adoption and then mommy's adoption and then the reunification, and not maybe for your oldest, but for the other kids, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a
Oh yeah.
lot to digest.
Yeah. It is a lot. It's actually my kids are so supportive of all of it. You know what I mean? If I tell them when I called my daughter, her and I are very, very close to. She's 17. When I called her, I said, "Hey, I found my mom." She's like, "What are you doing? What are you about to do? Where are you going?" I
Look,
said,
I'm
My location's on."
look, she's going to work. I don't know why she's going to work, but she's going to work.
Right. I was saying my way. Hey, my location's on. You know where I'm at. Just let me know. You know what I mean? I'll let you know where I'm at.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
you know, and everybody asks, "Are you nervous about going down there to meet them?" No, I'm just going. I'm just going. I have to do what
Well,
I have.
see, I got on a plane because I'm in Florida.
Right.
And about 4 weeks later, I jumped on the plane by myself and went to Chicago to meet my brothers.
Yeah.
There's something about And now, granted, I do have from my adoptive side, I did have family in the city. So if anything went to the left, like they were there.
Right.
But I never felt like stranger danger,
Never.
nervous. Like I can't explain it. I never
It
felt
wasn't even
like
the
that.
thought process. It wasn't even in the thought process. It was, I'm going to
No.
my family. I'm going to see my
I'm
family.
going to meet my brother, right? I'm
Right.
going to meet. I met my grandmother that trip. I met aunts. I met cousins, like family.
Yes.
And I want to know, did you have the same experience I had? Because the very first time I met them and stood in a room full of them, the outside of my son that I had, seeing a room full of people that you look like,
So is the
I
most surreal feeling.
it
It
is, isn't it?
it's surreal. I identified when you said that when I had my first child, I looked down and that was the first time ever
First time
something
ever.
somebody looks like me. When I told people I was like the only, biological family I have are my kids. That's the only connection I have.
Mhm.
Um, that was different for people. But when I was standing in the room with my mom and my grandmother and my sister,
I'm
I'm
telling
looking
you,
around and I'm looking at my baby pictures. My grandmother had baby pictures of me that my adopted mom had sent to the social worker who sent it to her. That's how I knew that I knew that I knew I was in the right place too. But when I'm looking at
absolutely.
these baby pictures of me and these baby pictures of my sister and they look alike, I'm like, what? It's surreal. It's just
It's
surreal.
surreal. It's surreal. And if
Nope,
you're not an adoptee
you
that has
don't.
not done this, you don't understand.
No,
You
you just don't get
understand?
it. You can't get it. There's just
You
no
can't get it.
when you can dream about what who looks like you and still not know.
It's still not
It's
known.
so surreal.
It's so in closing, I
Mhm.
have a question that I want, well, not even a question. I want you to speak to the people about healing because your healing journey, mm, so speak to the people, give them some last words about healing.
So I wasn't in a right place to heal at all previously, to prior to me getting in recovery. All this happened after I got into recovery. So even when you think that you're at a dead end, even when you think that, I can't find anything else, nothing's coming. Make sure you're on the right path first. Make sure you're going in the right
Mm,
direction first. Because maybe God is not putting that in your direction because you're not in the right place. Maybe if you got on the right path, you'd get the answers you're looking for, is what I'm trying to say.
If you got on the right path, then the answers that are looking for will come.
Right. I was over a year in recovery before any of this happened. This is just this past May 2023. I got clean in January 2022. So I was just over a year sober before any of this happened. And I'd been looking for years, on and off looking. But, even the past 4 years, that's when I had my search angel starting to look. So it wasn't till I was ready, till I was physically and mentally healthy enough to handle any of this.
And you didn't even know that. It was
Mm-mm,
just
mm-mm,
God just had to make sure you were aligned.
mm-hmm. God
And
said,
then
okay, they're
now
right here.
you
They're
can
right
go.
here.
They were right there. They were up the street. But
Right.
you're not ready. But you're not ready.
I hold
So
on
I'm
to
not
them.
going to release that yet.
Yeah. I hold on to them for you. They're good until you get here.
Sarah,
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah. I mean, my grandmother's 88 years old
Mm,
and is holding, like, she's good.
yeah.
So yeah, I had to be in the right place to get to receive it.
In the right place. Oh my gosh. That's you know what? I can end right there because let the church say amen. Well, thank you so much for coming and blessing us with your story.
Thank
And
you.
you're so welcome. Your words of encouragement, you are going to help somebody because whew, that's that's it.
Goal. That is definitely the goal. Thank you so much for
You're
inviting me
so
on.
welcome. Absolutely. And until next week, bye family.